When a kind-hearted receptionist unknowingly befriends the reclusive CEO disguised as a janitor, her compassion changes the fate of an entire company, and both their hearts. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are. Watching from today, the morning sun streamed through the large glass windows of Everson Enterprises as Amara Hayes hurried through the front doors. She was early as usual, her brown hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, wearing her favorite, navy blue dress with a cardigan. At 26, she wasn't trying to stand out, but there was something about her that made people notice her anyway, a warmth that seemed to radiate from within. "Morning, Ben," she called to the security guard, who brightened at the sight of her. "Morning. Amara, brought your usual smile to brighten up the place, I see." Amara laughed. "And I brought you this." She handed him a paper bag containing a blueberry muffin, his favorite. "Mrs. Garcia at the bakery said to tell you hello." Ben's face lit up. "You're an angel, you know that?" Amara shook her head, blushing. "Slightly. Just a muffin, Ben. Have a good day." She made her way to the reception desk where she worked, setting down her purse and turning on her computer. Everson Enterprises was one of the leading technology companies in the country, with 500 employees in this building alone. As the main receptionist, Amara was the first face people saw when they entered, something the company valued, though they didn't always show it with her paycheck. But Amara didn't mind. She loved her job, loved greeting people and helping them find their way. She'd been here for 3 years now, and she knew almost everyone by name, from the executives on the top floor to the maintenance staff in the basement. "Hey, Amara." It was Tiffany from marketing, balancing a tray of coffee cups. "Ready for the board meeting today? I heard they're making some big announcements." "Really?" "No one tells me anything," Amara said, helping Tiffany steady the tray. "Here, let me help you with that." "Thanks." "Yeah, something about the CEO finally coming back after his year away. People are freaking out." Amara had never actually met Rowan Kessler, the mysterious CEO who had founded Everson at just 24 years old. He was famously private, no social media, few photographs, and according to office gossip, a tendency to disappear for long stretches of time. The past year had been one of those stretches, with the company run by a team of executives in his absence. Maybe he'll actually walk through the front door this time, instead of using that private elevator, Amara said, smiling. The morning quickly descended into chaos. A delivery truck arrived with the wrong equipment for the tech department. The coffee machine in the break room overflowed, leaving a puddle that stretched into the hallway, and the main copier broke down just as the quarterly reports needed to be printed. "I can't believe this," moaned Patricia from accounting, watching as Amara tried to mop up the coffee with paper towels. "Today of all days." "It'll be fine," Amara assured her, though her knees were soaked with coffee. "Go finish those reports, I'll handle this." As Patricia hurried away, Amara looked up to see a man she didn't recognize standing awkwardly in the hallway. He was tall and lean, with dark hair that fell across his forehead and glasses that seemed slightly too big for his face. He wore simple, grey maintenance coveralls and carried a mop. "Oh, thank goodness," Amara said, standing up with a handful of soggy paper towels. "I'm making a mess of this. Are you new? I don't think we've met." The man seemed startled that she was speaking to him. Yes, new. Started yesterday. Maintenance department." His voice was low, a little uncertain. "I'm Amara. Welcome to Everson." She held out her hand, then realized it was wet with coffee. "Sorry. Bit of a disaster today." To her surprise, he took her hand anyway, a small smile crossing his face. "I'm Rob," he said, "and this is actually my job, so—" He gestured to the mop. "Right, of course. I'll get out of your way." But instead of leaving, Amara grabbed some more paper towels. As the new janitor mopped, she helped pick up scattered sugar packets and stir sticks. He kept giving her curious glances. "You don't have to help," he finally said. "I know, but why not? 4 hands are better than 2, right?" He seemed about to say something else when Patricia returned, looking frazzled. "Amara, there you are. The phones are ringing off the hook and now the printer's jammed. Can you please come back to your desk?" Amara sighed. "Coming, sorry," she said to Rob. "Duty calls. Thanks for helping with this mess." He nodded, those intense eyes still watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. The rest of the morning was a blur of phone calls, deliveries, and problem-solving. It wasn't until nearly noon that Amara had a moment to breathe. She grabbed her lunch bag and headed to the break room, only to find Rob there again, this time fixing a cabinet door that had come loose. "We meet again," she said cheerfully. "How's your first day going?" He looked up, that same surprised expression on his face. "It's educational," Amara laughed. "That's a diplomatic way of putting it." She pulled out her sandwich and then, after a moment's hesitation, broke a chocolate chip cookie in half. "Want some? Homemade." "Well, home-bought from the bakery down the street, but still delicious." Rob stared at the cookie, as if he couldn't quite believe the offer. "Are you sure?" "Of course. Consider it a welcome gift." He took it carefully. "Thank you, that's very kind." "It's just a cookie," Amara said with a shrug, though she was pleased by his genuine gratitude. They ate in companionable silence for a few minutes. Rob seemed content not to talk, and Amara was too tired from the morning chaos to make conversation. But it wasn't uncomfortable. There was something calming about his presence. Finally, he spoke. "Do you always help clean up coffee spills and share your food with the maintenance staff?" Amara tilted her head. "I help when I can, and I share." "Food with anyone who looks hungry," she smiled. "Why? Do people usually ignore you?" A shadow crossed his face. "You'd be surprised." Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. "Break's over," she sighed, gathering her things. "See you around, Rob." The afternoon brought more surprises. At 3 o'clock, a sleek black car pulled up to the front of the building, and a buzz went through the office. "He's here," Tiffany whispered excitedly as she rushed past Amara's desk. "Rowan Kessler is in the building." Amara watched as executives in expensive suits hurried toward the conference room. She caught a glimpse of a tall figure surrounded by people, but couldn't see his face. So the mysterious CEO had finally returned. By the time her shift ended at 6, most of the upper management was still in meetings. Amara gathered her things, said goodnight to Ben, and stepped out into the early evening air. She was halfway to the bus stop when she realized she'd left her phone charger at her desk. The building was quieter now as she made her way back to reception. As she rounded the corner, she was surprised to see Rob still there, mopping the marble floor of the lobby. "Late shift?" she asked. He looked up, and she thought she saw a flash of pleasure in his eyes before he nodded. "Lots to clean. Big day." "Today." "So I heard. The famous CEO has returned." Amara grabbed her charger from her desk drawer. "Not that any of us regular people got to see him." Rob's mop paused. "Would you want to see him, I mean?" Amara considered the question. "I don't know, maybe. Just to see what all the fuss is about. They say he's brilliant, but difficult." "Difficult how?" There was an edge to his question. "Oh, you know what they say about tech geniuses? All brains, no people skills," she smiled. "Though I shouldn't gossip about the boss, especially on your first day." Rob resumed mopping. What if he's just private? Maybe being in charge is harder than people think." "Maybe," Amara agreed. "I try not to judge people I've never met. For all I know, he could be perfectly nice." She headed for the door. "Good night, Rob. Don't work too late." "Amara," he called after her. When she turned, he seemed to struggle with what to say. "Thanks for the cookie and for seeing me." Something in his voice touched her. "Everyone deserves to be seen, Rob. See you tomorrow." As she walked to the bus stop, Amara thought about the new janitor with the thoughtful eyes and quiet voice. There was something about him, something she couldn't quite put her finger on, but in a good way. Back in the lobby, Rowan Kessler, known to Amara only as Rob, leaned on his mop and watched her go. For the first time in years, he felt a flutter of something he'd almost forgotten. Hope. The next morning, Amara arrived. To find a single donut on her desk, chocolate frosted, her favorite. No note, no explanation, just a small act of kindness that made her smile. As the week progressed, she found herself looking forward to those brief encounters with Rob. Unlike most people in the building, he seemed to notice the little things she did. How she remembered everyone's coffee orders, stayed late to help visitors find their way, or defended the shy new intern when others made fun of his stutter. "How you didn't have to do that," Rob said one afternoon after Amara had stood up to Daniel from sales, who'd been mocking the intern. Amara shrugged. "Someone needed to say something. But it might make things awkward for you." "Some things matter. More than avoiding awkwardness," she said simply. That weekend, Amara visited her elderly neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, helping her with groceries and spending an hour listening to stories about her late husband. On Monday, when Rob asked about her weekend, she mentioned it casually. "You spend your free time helping old ladies with their groceries?" he asked, his voice somewhere between amused and amazed. "Mrs. Peterson has no family nearby," Amara explained, "and she makes the best oatmeal cookies in return." "So, that's your secret. You help people for the baked goods," he teased. Amara laughed, surprised by his joke. Rob had been opening up more, showing flashes of wit and warmth beneath his quiet exterior. "You caught me. I'm completely self-interested," she joked. Back like something shifted between them after that. Each day, Rob seemed to find reasons to be near reception. They'd share lunch breaks when they could, and Amara found herself telling him things she rarely shared with others, about her dreams of going back to school someday, her worries about her mother's health, her secret passion for painting landscapes that she never showed anyone. And Rob listened, really listened, in a way few people ever had. What Amara didn't know was that each night, after his shift as Rob ended, Rowan Kessler would ride his private elevator to the top floor, change into an expensive suit, and spend hours in meetings about the future of Everson. The restructuring the executives had been planning during his absence was brutal. Cutting departments, outsourcing jobs, all in the name of efficiency. "These people are just numbers to you," he accused his board during one heated meeting. "You don't even know who they are." "With all due respect, sir," said Victor Hargrove, his chief financial officer, "neither do you. You've been gone for a year." Rowan couldn't argue with that, at least not without revealing what he'd been doing for the past 2 weeks. So instead, he began asking for files, learning names and faces, trying to match them with the people he'd observed from behind his janitor's disguise. And always, his thoughts returned to Amara. Smart, kind Amara, who deserved far more recognition than she received. 3 weeks after his return, Rowan made a decision. It was time for Rowan Kessler to formally meet Amara Hayes. The invitation arrived on a Thursday, a crisp white envelope addressed to Amara, delivered by a stern-faced executive assistant. "Mr. Kessler requests your presence for dinner tomorrow. Evening at 7, the woman said, her expression suggesting she found this highly irregular. "The car will pick you up at your address. Business attire is appropriate." Amara stared at the envelope in shock. There must be some mistake. "Why would the CEO want to have dinner with me?" The assistant sniffed. "Mr. Kessler doesn't make mistakes. Will you be attending?" Yes, I suppose." Amara's mind was racing. Had she done something wrong? Was this about the time she'd told off Daniel from sales? She didn't see Rob that day, which only added to her unease. When she finally opened the envelope at home that night, the card inside simply read, "I would be honored by your company. RK." The next day passed in a blur of anxiety. By the time the sleek black car pulled up outside her modest apartment building, Amara had changed outfits 3 times, finally settling on a simple blue dress, professional but still nice enough for dinner. The car took her to one of the most exclusive restaurants in the city. As the host led her to a private dining room in the back, Amara's heart pounded. What could Rowan Kessler possibly want with her? The room was softly lit, with a single table set for 2. And there, standing by the window, was a man whose profile seemed oddly familiar. When he turned, Amara froze. It was Rob, but not Rob. This man wore a perfectly tailored suit instead of grey coveralls. His hair was styled differently, and he wasn't wearing the 2 big glasses, but those eyes, those thoughtful, intense eyes, were unmistakable. "Hello, Amara," he said, his voice the same low tone she'd grown to know, but somehow different too, more confident, less hesitant. "Rob?" she whispered. "I don't understand." He took a step toward her, his expression a mix of hope and fear. "My name is Rowan Kessler, And I owe you an explanation." The blood drained from Amara's face as realization dawned. Their CEO, the mysterious, reclusive CEO, had been pretending to be a janitor, had been eating lunch with her, accepting her shared cookies, listening to her stories. "Why?" she managed to ask, her voice barely audible. Rowan stood before her, visibly shaken. "Everything I told you, everything I felt, was real. You're the only one I've met who didn't need to know my name to be kind." Amara stared at Rowan, her mind struggling to process what was happening. The man she'd shared lunches with, the quiet janitor she'd grown to care about, was actually the CEO of Eversin Enterprises. "Please sit down," Rowan said, gesturing to the table. "Let me explain." Amara didn't move. "Explain what? That you've been lying to me for weeks, pretending to be someone you're not?" "Yes," he admitted, his voice quiet, "but not for the reasons you might think." "Then why?" Her voice shook with emotion. "Was this some kind of game to you? See how the little people live?" Rowan winced. "No, Amara. Never that." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she recognized from their conversations in the break room. "When I came back from my sabbatical, I wanted to see the company without the filter of presentations and reports. I wanted to know what was really happening when no one thought the boss was watching." Amara crossed her arms. "So you spied on us," I observed, he corrected gently. "And what I saw changed everything, especially you." Despite her anger, Amara felt herself wavering. She thought of all their conversations, how genuinely interested he'd seemed in her life, her thoughts. Had that all been fake? "Sit down, please," Rowan said again. "Have dinner with me. If you still want to leave after I've explained, I'll have the car take you home. No questions asked." After a moment's hesitation, Amara sat. A server immediately appeared with water and menus, then discreetly withdrew. "I've spent the past year traveling," Rowan began when they were alone, "trying to figure out what was missing in my life. I built Eversin from nothing, watched it grow beyond my wildest dreams, but somewhere along the way, I lost sight of why I started it in the first place." "Which was?" Amara asked, still wary. "To create technology that helps people, real people." His eyes held hers across the table. "Not just to make money or have power." Amara took a sip of water, trying to reconcile the man before her with the maintenance worker she'd come to know. "So you came back and decided to mop floors?" A small smile crossed his face. "I decided to see my company through fresh eyes. No preconceptions, no one telling me what I wanted to hear." His expression grew more serious. "What I found was disturbing. Half the executives don't even know the names of the people working for them. The policies that were implemented while I was gone, they're all about profit, not people." "And that surprised you?" Amara couldn't keep the edge from her voice. "The rumors about the restructuring have everyone terrified they're going to lose their jobs." Rowan leaned forward. "Those plans are being reconsidered. Because of what I've seen. Because of you." The server returned with appetizers. Amara didn't remember ordering. After he left, she asked the question that had been burning in her mind. "Why me? What made you single me out?" Rowan's eyes softened. "The first day you were the only person who actually looked at me, who treated me like a human being and not just furniture." He paused. "Do you know how rare that is, Amara? To be seen for who you are and not what you represent." Amara thought about that. She had to admit that many of her co-workers barely acknowledged the maintenance staff. "But it wasn't just that," Rowan continued. "I watched you stand up for that intern when Daniel was mocking him. I saw how you help everyone, regardless of their position. You care, genuinely care, and that's..." He seemed to search for the right word. "Extraordinary." The sincerity in his voice made something flutter in Amara's chest, but she pushed the feeling away. "If you admired these things about me, why didn't you just tell me who you were? Would you have been the same with me if you had known?" He challenged gently. "Would you have shared your lunch and told me about Mrs. Peterson and your mother and your paintings? Or would you have been careful with every word, every action because I was the CEO?" Amara wanted to deny it, but she knew he was right. She would have been different. Everyone was different around power. "That still doesn't make it okay to deceive me," she said, but her anger was fading, replaced by a complicated mix of emotions she couldn't quite name. "You're right," Rowan nodded. "And I'm sorry for that, more than I can say." He hesitated. "But I'm not sorry I got to know the real you, Amara, and I hope you felt you were getting to know the real me too, even if you didn't know my full name or title." The main course arrived, steak for him, salmon for her. Somehow he'd remembered her mentioning that she loved salmon, but rarely splurged on it. As they ate, Rowan told her more about his year away, how he'd traveled to remote places, volunteered in communities that had never heard of Everson Enterprises, and gradually realized how disconnected he'd become from the real world. "I was surrounded by people who only told me what I wanted to hear," he explained, "who only showed me what I wanted to see. I needed perspective." "And did you find it?" Amara asked, genuinely curious now. "Some." His smile was rueful. But the real eye-opener was coming back as Rob the janitor, seeing how the other half lives, I guess you could say. By the time dessert arrived, chocolate cake that reminded Amara of the donuts they'd shared, her anger had mellowed into something closer to understanding. Not forgiveness, not yet, but understanding. "So what happens now?" she asked as they lingered over coffee. Rowan's eyes searched hers. "That depends partly on you. Professionally, I want to offer you a promotion." Amara's eyebrows shot up. "A promotion? To what?" "Director of Employee Relations, a new position I'm creating." He leaned forward, his voice earnest. "Everson has lost its way when it comes to treating people right. I need someone who understands the value of every employee, regardless of their position. Someone who leads with heart as well as mind." Amara sat back, stunned. "I'm a receptionist, Rowan. I don't have an MBA or—" "You have something more important," he interrupted. "Integrity, compassion, the ability to see people for who they really are." His gaze was intense. "I need that more than another suit with a business degree." The offer was incredible. Far more money, real influence, a chance to make the changes she'd always wished she could. But there was something else lingering between them, something unspoken. "And personally," she asked quietly, "what happens with us?" Rowan's expression softened. "That's entirely up to you. I've grown to care about you, Amara. More than I expected to. More than I've cared about anyone in a long time." He reached across the table, his fingers stopping just short of hers. "But I understand if the way we met makes that impossible, if you need time, or if you just want to keep things professional." Amara looked at his hand, remembering how different those same fingers had looked holding a mop, how genuine their conversations had felt, despite the deception at their core. "I need time," she finally said. "This is a lot to process." Rowan nodded, withdrawing his hand. "Of course, take all the time you need." The car ride back to her apartment was quiet, both of them lost in thought. When they arrived, Rowan walked her to the door of her building but didn't try to come in. "Thank you for listening," he said, "for giving me a chance to explain." Amara nodded, still conflicted. "When do you need an answer about the job?" "There's no deadline. Think about it." He hesitated, then added, "Will I see you at work on Monday?" "Yes," she decided, "but as Amara the receptionist, not whatever this new position would be, at least for now." Relief crossed his face. "I understand." He took a step back. "Good night, Amara." "Good night, Rowan." As she watched him walk back to the car, Amara realized this was the first time she'd used his real name. It felt strange on her lips, yet somehow right. The weekend passed in a blur of confusion. Amara replayed every conversation she'd had with Rob, searching for clues she might have missed, moments of deception that should have been obvious. But all she could remember was his genuine interest, his quiet smile, the way he'd listened when no one else bothered. By Monday morning, she still hadn't decided what to do. She arrived at Everson earlier than usual, half expecting to find Rowan waiting for her. But the lobby was empty except for Ben at the security desk. "Morning, Amara," he called. "Got a surprise for you." "What kind of surprise?" she asked warily. Ben grinned. "Check your desk." On her desk was a small canvas, brushes, and a set of paints. Professional quality, much nicer than the student grade. Supplies she used at home. A note read simply, "For the landscapes you never show anyone. Maybe someday you'll show me." Oh, Amara's heart thumped painfully in her chest. She'd only mentioned her painting hobby once, in passing. The gift was thoughtful, personal, and confusing. The morning progressed normally until just before lunch, when the elevator doors opened and Rowan Kessler himself stepped out. Not Rob the janitor, but Rowan the CEO, dressed in a sharp suit, his presence commanding attention from everyone in the lobby. Several employees froze, staring in surprise at the rarely seen boss. Rowan nodded politely to them, but walked directly to Amara's desk. "Ms. Hayes," he said formally, though his eyes held a warmth only she would recognize. "Could I have a moment of your time?" Whispers immediately erupted around them. Amara could feel curious stares burning into her back as she followed Rowan to a small conference room off the main lobby. Once the door closed behind them, his professional demeanor softened. "Sorry about the public approach. I thought it might be easier if everyone saw us meeting officially." "Easier for whom?" Amara asked, but without rancor. "Fair point." He smiled slightly. "How are you?" "Confused," she admitted. "The art supplies are beautiful, but too much," he asked quickly. "I wasn't trying to pressure you. I just remembered how your eyes lit up when you talked about painting and thought..." "They're perfect," Amara assured him. "That's not what confuses me." "Then what?" She gestured vaguely between them. "This, us, the job offer, everything." Rowan nodded slowly. "I understand. It's a lot." He paused. "I have meetings all day, but I was hoping we could talk more tonight. Dinner again maybe, or just coffee if that's more comfortable." Amara hesitated. Part of her wanted to keep her distance, to protect herself from whatever this complicated situation was becoming. But another part, a stronger part, wanted answers. Wanted to know if the connection she'd felt with Rob was real or just an elaborate illusion. Coffee, she decided. Not dinner. Relief crossed his face. "Coffee it is. 7 o'clock? There's a small place on Maple Street, Joe's. Casual, quiet." "I know it," Amara said with a nod. "Great." Rowan moved toward the door, then stopped. "Just so you know, I've put the restructuring plans on hold. No one's losing their job. At least not until we've thoroughly reviewed the human impact, not just the financial side." Amara felt a weight lift from her shoulders. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. It's what should have been done from the beginning." As he opened the door, they nearly collided with Victor Hargrove, the company's chief financial officer. His expression darkened when he saw Amara. "Ah, Kessler. There you are. The board is waiting." His eyes flicked dismissively over Amara. "When you're finished with whatever this is." Rowan's posture stiffened. "Ms. Hayes and I were having an important discussion about company morale, Victor, and the board can wait another minute." Victor's lips thinned. "Of course." He turned to Amara with a tight smile. "Perhaps you could fetch us some coffee before we begin? Black for me, cream for Mr. Kessler." Before Amara could respond, Rowan stepped between them. "Ms. Hayes is not a personal assistant, Victor. She's being considered for the new director of employee relations position." Victor's eyes widened in disbelief. "The receptionist? Surely you're joking?" "Do I look like I'm joking?" Rowan's voice was dangerously quiet. Amara touched his arm. "It's okay," she said softly. "I'm used to it." "Well, you shouldn't be," Rowan replied, his eyes never leaving Victor's face. "And it's going to stop starting now." Victor's face flushed with anger. "We need to talk, Kessler, privately." "We will. But first, I believe you owe Ms. Hayes an apology." The tension in the room was palpable. Amara could see the calculation, in Victor's eyes, weighing his pride against Rowan's obvious anger. "My apologies," he finally said, the words clearly costing him. "No offense intended." "None taken," Amara replied, though they all knew it was a lie. After Victor stalked away, Rowan turned to her with regret in his eyes. "I'm sorry about that. Not your fault. Isn't it? He's part of the culture I allowed to develop." Rowan shook his head. "This is why I need you, Amara, to help me change things." The intensity in his gaze made her heart skip. "I'll think about it. That's all I ask." He glanced at his watch. I should go. See you at 7? Amara nodded. I'll be there. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Tiffany from marketing cornered her almost immediately. Spill, she demanded. Why was Rowan Kessler himself talking to you, and what's this about a new position? Amara kept her answers vague, saying only that Mr. Kessler was considering her for a role based on her customer service experience. But inside, her thoughts were racing. What was she getting herself into? At 6:45, she entered Joe's Coffee, surprised to find Rowan already there, sitting in a corner booth. He'd changed from his business suit to jeans and a simple button-down shirt, closer to how she'd known him as Rob, though with none of the janitor's awkward posture or hesitance. You came, he said, as she slid into the booth across from him. He'd already ordered her favorite, a caramel latte with an extra shot of espresso. I said I would. Amara wrapped her hands around the warm mug. But I still have questions. Ask me anything, Rowan offered. No more secrets. For the next hour, Amara did just that. She asked about his childhood, complicated, wealthy parents who were rarely present. His education, Stanford, though he'd dropped out to start his first company, and how he'd built Eversin, sleepless nights and a vision for technology that actually improved lives. In turn, he asked about her dreams beyond reception, her family, a single mother who'd worked 2 jobs to support them, her paintings, landscapes mostly, places she'd never been but imagined visiting someday. As they talked, Amara felt the same ease they'd had during their break room conversations. But now there was something else too, an awareness of him as a man, not just a friendly co-worker. The way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, the thoughtful tilt of his head when she spoke, the undeniable chemistry between them that she'd tried to ignore. Why didn't you tell me sooner? She finally asked, the question that had been burning inside her. Rowan's expression grew serious. At first it was just about observing the company, but then I met you and... He shook his head. I kept telling myself I'd reveal the truth tomorrow or the next day, but the longer it went on, the more I dreaded your reaction. I was afraid of losing what we had. And what was that exactly? Amara asked softly. His eyes met hers. Something real, something I haven't felt in a very long time. The air between them seemed to thicken. Amara's heart pounded as Rowan's hand moved across the table toward hers. I understand if you can't forgive the deception, he said, but I need you to know that everything else, every conversation, every moment we shared, that was the real me, Amara. More real than I've been with anyone. Before she could respond, the coffee shop door burst open. Victor Hargrove stormed in, his face tight with anger. There you are, he snapped at Rowan. We've been trying to reach you for hours. Rowan didn't move his hand from where it now rested near Amara's. I'm off the clock, Victor. Whatever it is can wait until morning. It most certainly cannot. Victor's eyes flicked dismissively to Amara, then back to Rowan. The board has called an emergency meeting. They're voting on your restructuring freeze. They can't do that without me, Rowan said, his voice hardening. Actually, they can. Your year-long absence triggered the contingency clause. They need a majority, not unanimity. Victor's smile was cold. Perhaps if you'd been paying attention to the company instead of playing dress-up and flirting with the receptionist, you'd have remembered that. Amara felt herself flush with anger and embarrassment. Rowan stood slowly, his expression dangerous. That's enough, Victor. Is it? Victor challenged. The company is losing millions because of your sudden attack of conscience. And for what? So you can impress your new girlfriend. You're out of line, Rowan warned. Victor ignored him, turning to Amara. Did he tell you what this is really about? How he abandoned the company after his fiancée left him for his business partner? How he had some kind of breakdown and disappeared for a year, leaving the rest of us to clean up his mess? Amara looked at Rowan in shock. Fiancé? Pain flashed across Rowan's face. It was over long before I left, Amara. Bianca was... Bianca. Winters? Amara said, the name suddenly clicking into place. The supermodel? Former fiancé, Rowan emphasized. And yes, she's with James Morton now, my former friend and business partner. His jaw tightened. It's old news, Victor, and irrelevant to the current situation. Is it? Victor pressed. Or are you just repeating the same pattern, letting personal feelings cloud your business judgment? He glanced at his watch. The meeting starts in 20 minutes. You coming, or should I tell them you're too busy? Rowan's expression was torn as he looked at Amara. I have to go. I know, she said quietly. Go. This isn't over, he told her. We'll talk tomorrow. As he followed Victor out of the coffee shop, Amara sat back, her mind spinning. Rowan had been engaged to Bianca Winters, one of the most beautiful women in the world, a woman whose face graced magazine covers and billboards, a woman who had left him for his best friend. No wonder he'd disappeared for a year. No wonder he'd been so guarded, so private. Suddenly, his interest in her seemed suspect. Was she just a distraction? A way to soothe his wounded ego? The opposite of the glamorous woman who had broken his heart? By the time Amara got home, doubt had taken firm root in her mind. She tried to remind herself of the genuine connection they'd shared, the way he'd listened to her, valued her ideas, but the image of Bianca Winters' perfect face kept intruding. What could Rowan Kessler possibly see in a simple receptionist? After being with someone like that, her phone rang just after midnight. Rowan's number. The board overruled me, he said without preamble, his voice tight with anger. They're moving forward with the restructuring, starting with the support staff, including reception. Amara's breath caught. They're firing me. Not if I can help it. The determination in his voice was fierce. I offered you that promotion for a reason, Amara. I need you. But now I need your answer. You want me to take the job to save myself from being fired? She asked incredulously. No, Rowan replied. I want you to take it because you're the right person for it. But yes, it would protect your position. Amara felt cornered. I need to think, Rowan, about all of this. There was a pause. Of course. He sounded tired. I'm sorry about Victor, about what he said. I should have told you about Bianca myself. The mention of the name sent another spike of insecurity through Amara. It's fine, it was before we met. It was, Rowan agreed. And it's over. Completely over. But is it? Amara wondered. I'll let you know about the job tomorrow, she said, instead of voicing her doubts. After they hung up, Amara lay awake for hours, torn between her growing feelings for Rowan and her fear that she was making a terrible mistake. The fact that her job now hung in the balance only complicated things further. When morning came, she was no closer to a decision. She dressed for work mechanically, her mind still churning. As she approached the Everson building, she noticed something strange. A crowd had gathered outside, and security guards were checking IDs at the door. What's going on? She asked Ben as she finally made it inside. His expression was grim. They're starting the layoffs today. No warning, no nothing. People are being called up to HR in groups. Amara's stomach dropped. Already? But Rowan, Mr. Kessler said, apparently the board outvoted him, Ben said, shaking his head. It's a bloodbath. Amara hurried to her desk, her heart racing. Her phone was already ringing. Amara. Rowan's voice was urgent. Where are you? Are you at the building? Yes, I just got here. Rowan, what's happening? People are being laid off already. Victor moved everything up. He's trying to force my hand. Rowan sounded furious. Stay where you are. I'm coming down. But before he could reach her, Amara saw Victor Hargrove approaching her desk, flanked by two HR representatives. Ms. Hayes, Victor said with a cold smile, would you come with us, please? Amara looked past him, hoping to see Rowan stepping off the elevator, but the doors remained closed. Why? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. I think you know why, Victor replied. His voice lowered. Unless you'd rather wait for your patron. Is that what we're calling them these days? Anger flashed through Amara. Mr. Kessler offered me a promotion based on my work, not because of any personal relationship. Of course he did. Victor's tone made it clear he didn't believe a word. Are you coming willingly, or should I have security escort you? Amara stood, her head held high despite the humiliation burning through her. I'll come. As she followed Victor toward the elevator, she finally saw Rowan rushing from the other direction, his face a mask of fury when he spotted them. Victor, he shouted, stop this right now. Every head in the lobby turned to watch the confrontation. Victor smiled thinly. Board's orders, Kessler. Support staff cuts begin today. He glanced at Amara. Unless, of course, you've filled that new director position you were so keen on creating. All eyes shifted to Amara. In that moment, she understood the trap. If she accepted the position now in front of everyone, it would look exactly like what Victor was implying. Favoritism, or worse. Rowan seemed to realize it too. His eyes met hers, filled with regret and something deeper, something that made her heart ache. "Amara," he began. But before he could continue, the elevator doors opened again and a woman stepped out. Tall, impossibly beautiful, with flowing blonde hair and the kind of face that stopped traffic. Bianca Winters. "Rowan, darling," she called, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent lobby. "We need to talk." The entire lobby fell silent as Bianca Winters glided toward Rowan, her designer heels clicking against the marble floor. Even in casual clothes, though her idea of casual was still designer jeans and a silk blouse, she was breathtaking. Amara felt invisible standing next to her. Just another employee, just another nobody. "Bianca," Rowan said, his voice tight. "What are you doing here?" Bianca's perfect lips curved into a smile. "Is that any way to greet an old friend?" Her eyes slid to Amara, taking her in with a single dismissive glance before turning back to Rowan. "We need to talk. Privately." "I'm in the middle of something," Rowan said firmly. Victor stepped forward, looking like a cat who'd caught a particularly fat mouse. "Ms. Winters, what a pleasant surprise. I'm Victor Hargrove, CFO. Perhaps I can assist you while Mr. Kessler deals with this personnel matter." "The only personnel matter that needs dealing with is you overstepping your authority," Rowan snapped. "Ms. Hayes is not being terminated today or any day." Amara found her voice at last. "Actually, I quit." All eyes turned to her. Rowan looked, stunned. "Amara, wait, no." She straightened her spine, refusing to be the cause of this public spectacle. "I appreciate the opportunity you offered, Mr. Kessler, but I don't think it's the right fit for me after all." With as much dignity as she could muster, Amara walked back to her desk, grabbed her purse, and headed for the exit. She could feel everyone watching, could hear the whispers starting. The receptionist who thought she was special. The girl who'd caught the boss's eye until his gorgeous ex showed up. "Amara!" Rowan called after her, but she kept walking. Outside, the morning sun felt too bright, too cheerful for the hollowness in her chest. She made it to the corner before the tears started. Stupid, stupid, stupid. How could she have believed, even for a moment, that someone like Rowan Kessler would truly be interested in her? She was so lost in her misery that she didn't hear the footsteps behind her until a hand touched her shoulder. "Amara, please." It was Rowan, slightly out of breath from running after her. "Please, just listen." She wiped her tears quickly, mortified that he'd seen her crying. "There's nothing to say. Go back to your company and your Bianca." "She's not my anything," Rowan said fiercely. "I haven't seen or spoken to Bianca in over a year. I have no idea why she's here." "Does it matter?" Amara asked, unable to keep the hurt from her voice. "She's part of your world, Rowan. That world, back there." She gestured toward the Everson building. "I'm not. You could be." His eyes were pleading. "The position I offered you is real. Your talent is real. What's happening between us is real." A sleek car pulled up beside them, and the window rolled down to reveal Bianca's perfect face. "Rowan, darling, we really do need to talk. James sent me. It's important." James, the former friend, the man Bianca had left Rowan for. The anguish that crossed Rowan's face at the name told Amara everything she needed to know. Whatever he claimed, the wounds were still raw. "Go," she said quietly. "She obviously has something important to tell you." "Amara, I mean it, Rowan. Go." For a moment she thought he might refuse, but then his phone buzzed with a message, and as he glanced at it, his expression darkened. "The board is voting to remove me as CEO," he said, his voice hollow. "Victor's organized a coup." Amara's anger faded, replaced by concern despite herself. "What?" "I have to go. But this isn't over." His eyes locked with hers. "Please, just don't disappear. Let me find you when this is settled." Before she could answer, he was sliding into the car beside Bianca, his face grim with determination. Amara watched the car pull away, feeling as though something precious had just slipped through her fingers. Quite the morning show. She turned to find Tiffany from marketing standing behind her, an expensive camera around her neck. Amara had forgotten that photography was Tiffany's side hustle. "What are you doing out here?" Amara asked, suddenly wary. Tiffany shrugged. "Got a tip that something interesting was going down at Everson today. Didn't expect a love triangle with the CEO, though. That's tabloid gold." Amara felt sick. "You're selling this story?" "Why not? Celebrity magazines pay big for dirt on Bianca Winters, and her showing up at her ex's company makes for juicy gossip." Tiffany's smile faltered at Amara's expression. "Hey, it's just business, nothing personal." "It is to me," Amara said quietly. Tiffany studied her for a moment. "You really care about him, don't you? It's not just about the job or the money." Amara looked away. "It doesn't matter now. Maybe it does." Tiffany hesitated, then made a decision. "Look, come have coffee with me. There's something you should know." Still numb from the morning's events, Amara let Tiffany lead her to a nearby cafe. Once they were seated with their drinks, Tiffany leaned forward. "Victor's been planning this for months," she said. "I've been doing some photography for the company newsletter, so I'm in and out of executive meetings all the time. No one really notices me." "Planning what exactly?" Amara asked. "The takeover. He's been gathering support on the board, making deals, promising positions. He saw Kessler's sabbatical as the perfect opportunity." Tiffany sipped her coffee. But when Rowan came back and started asking questions, Victor got nervous, especially when he started talking about creating new positions focused on employee welfare. Amara remembered Rowan's words from their dinner. "The policies implemented while I was gone, they're all about profit, not people. So the restructuring plan, the layoffs," she began, "were Victor's idea," Tiffany confirmed. "And when Kessler tried to stop them, Victor decided to accelerate his timeline, push Rowan out completely." "But what does any of this have to do with me?" Amara asked. "Your leverage," Tiffany said simply. "Victor noticed how much time Kessler was spending with you, first as the janitor and then as himself. He's using you to discredit Rowan, make it look like he's making business decisions based on personal interests." Amara's face burned with humiliation. "That's why I quit. I won't be used like that." "Quitting might be exactly what Victor wants," Tiffany pointed out. "It removes you as a complication and makes Rowan look bad, the CEO who couldn't even keep his girlfriend from walking out." "I'm not his girlfriend," Amara protested weakly. Tiffany's eyebrow arched. "Aren't you? Maybe not officially, but I've seen the way he looks at you. And more importantly, I've seen the way you changed him." "What do you mean?" "The Rowan Kessler who left a year ago was cold, distant, brilliant, but removed. The man who came back was different." Tiffany shrugged. "People noticed. And then they noticed you were often nearby when he smiled, when he actually listened instead of just waiting for his turn to speak." Amara didn't know what to say. She hadn't realized others had seen the connection between them. "So what happens now?" she finally asked. "That depends," Tiffany said. "Do you want to let Victor win, or do you want to fight for what matters?" The question hung between them, challenging Amara to define exactly what or who mattered to her. Back at Everson, Rowan faced the board of directors with Bianca surprisingly at his side. Victor sat at the opposite end of the table, his expression smug. "The numbers speak for themselves," Victor was saying. "Rowan's emotional decisions are threatening the company's financial stability. We need leadership focused on shareholder value, not social experiments." "Is treating employees with basic dignity a social experiment now?" Rowan asked, his voice dangerously calm. "You abandoned the company for a year," one of the board members pointed out, "and since your return, you've been distracted, unfocused." "I've been seeing the company clearly for the first time," Rowan countered, "and what I've seen disturbs me. We've lost sight of our original mission." "Your mission, perhaps," Victor said dismissively. "The rest of us are focused on growth." "Growth at any cost isn't sustainable," Rowan argued, "and neither is a company culture built on fear and disposability." Victor's smile was cold. "Save the sentimentality for your girlfriend." "Oh wait, she quit, didn't she?" Rowan's fists clenched, but before he could respond, Bianca spoke up. Actually, I think Rowan's perspective is exactly what Everson needs right now. All eyes turned to her in surprise. That's why James sent me. James? Rowan echoed, confused. What does he have to do with this? Bianca pulled a folder from her designer bag. Quite a lot, actually. James has been tracking Victor's activities for months. She slid the folder across the table. Including his conversations with your competitors about selling company secrets once he gained control. The room erupted in chaos. Victor's face drained, of color. That's a lie. You can't prove... Actually, we can, Bianca interrupted smoothly. James may have borrowed your company, Rowan, but he never wanted to see it destroyed, especially not by someone like him. She nodded toward Victor with disdain. As the board members pored over the evidence, emails, recorded conversations, bank transfers, Rowan pulled Bianca aside. Why would James help me? He asked quietly. Bianca's expression softened. Because despite everything, he still considers you a friend. And because what Victor was planning would have hurt thousands of people, including many James cares about. And you? Why are you here? She shrugged elegantly. Let's just say I'm trying to make amends. What happened between us? It wasn't fair to you. I knew that then, and I know it now. Rowan studied her face, the face that had once meant everything to him. Now he felt only a distant echo of the pain her betrayal had caused. Thank you, he said simply, for bringing this information forward. Bianca glanced toward the window, a small smile playing on her lips. I think there's someone waiting for you downstairs, someone far more important than this meeting. Rowan followed her gaze and saw a familiar figure standing near the entrance to the building, Amara looking up as if searching for his window. Go, Bianca urged. The board has what they need now. Victor's finished. Without waiting for further permission, Rowan strode from the room. As the elevator descended, his heart pounded with hope and fear. What if Amara had only come back to collect her things? What if she couldn't forgive his deception, couldn't accept the complications of his world? The doors opened and he stepped into the lobby. Amara stood near her old desk, talking with Tiffany. When she saw him, she fell silent, her expression guarded. Rowan crossed the space between them, aware of the curious eyes watching but no longer caring. You came back, he said simply. I heard there might be a job opening, Amara replied, her voice careful. Director of Employee Relations. Relief flooded through him. The position is still available, if you want it. I do. She met his gaze steadily. But not because I need rescuing, and not because we have whatever this is between us. Then why? Because it's work that matters, she said, and because I'm good at seeing people for who they really are. A tentative smile crossed Rowan's face. Even people who lie about being janitors, especially them. The corner of her mouth lifted slightly. Though I'm still mad about that part. Fair enough. He took a step closer. What about Victor? The board? Tiffany showed me some photos, Amara said, nodding toward her friend who was trying to look busy at a nearby desk. Evidence of Victor meeting with your competitors. She's been documenting it for weeks. Rowan looked surprised. So you knew about Bianca coming here? About James's evidence? No, that's news to me. Amara's expression clouded at Bianca's name. I just knew I couldn't let Victor win. Not if it meant the company would become exactly what you've been fighting against. The emotion in her voice, her passion for the principle, not just for him, made Rowan's heart swell. This was why he'd fallen for her. Not just her kindness, but her conviction. Amara, He was interrupted by the arrival of security, escorting a furious Victor toward the exit. This isn't over, Kessler, Victor shouted. You can't prove anything. Actually, we can, Rowan replied calmly. And it is over, Victor. For you, at least. As Victor was led away, employees began to gather, confusion and hope mingling on their faces. Rowan took a deep breath and turned to address them. The restructuring plan is officially cancelled, he announced. No one is losing their job today. In fact, in the coming weeks, we'll be reviewing salaries and benefits to ensure everyone at Everson is valued appropriately. A murmur of surprise and relief spread through the crowd. Rowan continued, his voice growing stronger. I've been away too long, and in my absence the company lost its way, but that ends now. His eyes found Amara's. With the help of our new Director of Employee Relations, we're going to rebuild Everson into the kind of company where every person matters, where we lead with heart as well as mind. The employees broke into applause. As they dispersed, returning to their work with renewed spirits, Rowan turned back to Amara. "I meant every word," he said quietly, "but I can't do it without you." "As an employee?" she asked. "Or as something else?" Rowan took her hand, no longer caring who saw. "Both, if you'll give me another chance." Amara looked at their joined hands, his now uncalloused fingers entwined with hers. She thought of all the lies, the complications, the worlds that separated them. But she also thought of the quiet man who had shared her lunches, who had seen her when no one else bothered to. "Look, it won't be easy," she warned. "People will talk. Let them." His voice was firm. "I spent a year hiding from the world, Amara. I don't want to hide anymore, especially not from you." "What about Bianca?" The question slipped out before she could. "Stop it. Bianca is my past," Rowan said. "A closed chapter. If you're willing, I'd like you to be my future." Before Amara could respond, the elevator doors opened again and Bianca herself stepped out. She spotted them immediately and walked over, her smile knowing. "Well, this looks promising," she said, glancing at their joined hands. Amara tensed, but to her surprise, Bianca's expression held no malice, only a hint of wistfulness. "I should thank you," Bianca said to Amara, "for helping him find his way back." "I didn't do anything," Amara replied honestly. "You did everything," Bianca countered. "You saw him. The real him, not the title or the bank account." She turned to Rowan. "Hold on to this one. She's worth more than all the rest of us combined." With that, she kissed Rowan lightly on the cheek, a goodbye, not a promise, and walked toward the exit, turning heads as she went. When she was gone, Amara let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "That was unexpected." "Bianca has her moments," Rowan said, "though that might be the first time she's ever put someone else's happiness before her own." "Maybe people can change," Amara suggested. "I know they can." Rowan's eyes were tender. As they met hers, "You changed me." The words touched something deep within her, dissolving the last of her resistance. Perhaps it was foolish to trust him after everything, to believe that a man with his wealth and power could truly want someone like her. But her heart, which had always guided her true, told her this was real. "So what happens now?" she asked, echoing the question she'd asked at their first dinner. "Now," Rowan said, a smile spreading across his face, "I take you to dinner. A proper dinner with no secrets between us. And then," he hesitated, "and then we see where this leads. Together." Amara smiled, letting herself believe in the possibility. "I'd like that." As they walked out of Everson together, Amara couldn't help but think of how differently her day had begun, with heartbreak and humiliation. Now somehow she was hand in hand with a man she'd thought beyond her reach, stepping into a future neither of them could have predicted. Ben, the security guard, winked at them as they passed. "About time," he said. Outside, the afternoon sun warmed Amara's face as Rowan led her not to his expensive car, but toward the street. "Where are we going?" she asked. "I thought we'd walk," he said. "There's a little Italian place a few blocks from here. Nothing fancy, just good food." His smile was slightly nervous. "Is that okay?" Amara felt something in her chest expand with warmth. He was trying to bridge their worlds, to meet her in the middle. "It's perfect," she assured him as they walked. Rowan told her about the board meeting, about Victor's scheme, about how Bianca and James had unexpectedly become allies. "I still can't believe it," he admitted. "A year ago I thought they'd destroyed my life. Now," he shrugged, "now it seems like just another chapter in a much longer story." "And what's this chapter called?" Amara asked. Rowan's eyes crinkled as he smiled down at her. "The Man with the Mop," he suggested. "It's about a guy who had to pretend to be someone else to find out who he really was." "I like that," Amara said, smiling back, "though I'm still not sure what the next chapter holds." "Neither am I," Rowan admitted. but I know who I want to write it with." As they reached the restaurant, he stopped, turning to face her fully. "Amara, there's something I need to say. Something I should have said sooner." Her heart quickened. "What's that?" "I'm falling in love with you," he said simply. "Not with the idea of you or with what you represent. With you, the woman who shares her lunch and helps strangers clean up coffee spills and stands up for people who can't stand up for themselves." The words hung in the air between them, honest and vulnerable. Amara thought of all the reasons to be cautious, to guard her heart. Their different worlds, the complications his position would bring, the whirlwind of how they'd met and all that had happened since, but in the end, only one thing mattered. "I'm falling in love with you too," she admitted. "With the man who held the mop, the one who listened, the one who sees me." Rowan's face lit with joy. Slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, he leaned down until his lips were inches from hers. "May I?" he whispered. Amara answered by closing the distance between them, her arms slipping around his neck as their lips met in a kiss that felt like coming home. On the street around them, people passed by unnoticing. No one recognized the CEO of Everson Enterprises kissing a woman who, until that morning, had been his receptionist. To the world, they were just another couple finding each other in a city full of love stories, and that's exactly how they wanted it to be. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of change. Amara threw herself into her new role with passion and determination. At first, some employees were skeptical. The receptionist suddenly promoted to director, dating the CEO, but Amara quickly proved her worth, implementing changes that made real differences in people's daily work lives. She started simply, with things she'd noticed from her years at the front desk: better breakroom facilities, a more flexible policy for parents needing to care for sick children, recognition for employees who went above and beyond. Small things that made people feel valued. Rowan, meanwhile, was undergoing his own transformation. No longer the distant CEO hiding in his corner office, he made a point of walking the floors each day, greeting employees by name, listening to their ideas and concerns. The man who had pretended to be a janitor now led with a new understanding of what it meant to truly see the people who worked for him. Their personal relationship grew alongside their professional one. Rowan introduced Amara to his world gradually. Dinners at nice restaurants, a charity gala, a weekend at his house in the country. She met his parents, who were dubious at first, but warmed to her genuine nature. "You're not what we expected," his mother admitted one evening, "but you're exactly what he needed." Amara introduced Rowan to her world too. Sunday dinners with her mother in the small apartment where she'd grown up, volunteering at the community center, helping Mrs. Peterson with her groceries. To her surprise, Rowan fit in seamlessly, charming her mother and insisting on carrying all of Mrs. Peterson's bags himself. "You don't have to do that," Amara told him the first time he joined her for volunteer work. "I know," he replied, rolling up his sleeves. "I want to. Not everything." Was smooth sailing. The press eventually caught wind of their relationship, and the headlines weren't always kind. CEO's new pet project, from receptionist to girlfriend, and Kessler Trade's supermodel for secretary were among the kinder ones. "Does it bother you?" Rowan asked one morning after a particularly nasty article appeared. Amara considered the question as she sipped her coffee. "Sometimes," she admitted. "Not for me, but for you. I worry about damaging your reputation," Rowan laughed. "My reputation? Amara, you're the best thing that's ever happened to me, personally and professionally. Everson's employee satisfaction scores have risen 30% since you took over. Productivity is up. Turnover is down. Anyone who thinks you're not qualified for your position hasn't been paying attention." His faith in her was unwavering, and with time, Amara found herself believing it too. She was good at her job, not because of her relationship with Rowan, but because she genuinely cared about making Everson a place where everyone felt valued. 6 months after that first kiss outside the Italian restaurant, Rowan took Amara back to where it all began, the break room where they'd first shared. Lunch. He'd arranged for it to be empty, decorated simply with flowers and candles. "What's all this?" Amara asked, laughing as he pulled out a chair for her at the small table. I thought we should commemorate an important anniversary, Rowan explained, sitting across from her. 6 months ago today, you gave a new janitor half your cookie and changed both our lives, Amara said softly. Exactly. Rowan's eyes were tender as he reached across the table for her hands. I've been thinking a lot lately about that day, about how one small act of kindness can alter everything. Amara smiled. It was just a cookie. It was more than that, and you know it. Rowan's expression grew serious. You saw me, Amara, not the CEO, not the billionaire, just me. And in seeing me, you helped me remember who I really was. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Amara's breath caught as he opened it to reveal a ring, not ostentatiously large but beautifully designed, with a diamond surrounded by smaller sapphires the color of her eyes. Rowan, she whispered. I had a whole speech planned, he said, his voice slightly shaky, about how much I love you, how you've changed my life, how I never want to be without you. But I think it all comes down to this. You're the only person I've ever met who loves me for exactly who I am. Not what I own or what I can provide, just me. He slid from his chair to one knee, still holding her hands. Amara Hayes, will you marry me? Will you keep seeing me, the real me, for the rest of our lives? Tears filled Amara's eyes as she looked at the man before her, the man she'd first known as a janitor with a mop, the man who'd become the love of her life. Yes, she said, her voice breaking with joy. Yes, I'll marry you. As he slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into his arms, Amara thought about the journey that had brought them here, from deception to truth, from separation to union, from two people who seemed worlds apart to a couple creating a new world together. I love you, Rowan whispered against her hair, every day more than the day before. I love you too, Amara replied. The man with the mop, the man in the suit, and every version in between. And in that moment, in the simple break room where their story had begun, they sealed their future with a kiss that promised forever. 1 year later, the gardens of the Kessler estate were transformed. White roses and blue hydrangeas lined the pathway, leading to an elegant white arch overlooking the lake. Rows of white chairs were filled with guests, some in designer clothing, others in their Sunday best, all gathered to witness the union of Rowan Kessler and Amara Hayes. In a room inside the main house, Amara stood before a full-length mirror, hardly recognizing herself in the simple but elegant wedding gown. Her mother fussed with the veil, tears shining in her eyes. You look beautiful, sweetheart, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Amara smiled, thinking of the journey that had brought her here. I can't believe this is happening, she admitted. Sometimes I still expect to wake up and find it was all a dream. Not a dream, her mother assured her. Just a love story, one of the good ones. There was a knock at the door and Tiffany peeked her head in. As Amara's maid of honor and now the head of Eversyn's newly expanded marketing department, she'd been instrumental in keeping the press at bay during the wedding preparations. It's time, she announced. Are you ready? Amara took a deep breath. Ready. As she stepped onto the pathway that would lead her to Rowan, Amara found herself thinking of all the moments that had brought them here. The spilled coffee, the shared lunches, the revelations and reconciliations. The year since their engagement had been filled with changes, both personal and professional. Eversyn had transformed under their shared vision. The employee-focused initiatives Amara had championed had not only improved morale, but had attracted top talent and positive press. Profits were up, and the company had been named one of the best places to work in the country. But more importantly, Rowan had found balance. No longer the reclusive workaholic nor the wounded man hiding behind a janitor's disguise, he'd become a leader who understood the value of both professional success and personal connection. As Amara walked down the aisle, her eyes found Rowan waiting for her beneath the arch. His face lit up at the sight of her, and the love in his eyes took her breath away. Beside him stood his best man, James Morton, the former friend who had become an ally and eventually a friend again. Life had a way of coming full circle. In the front row sat Mrs. Peterson, now a regular dinner guest at their home, and Ben from security, who'd been promoted to head of building operations. Next to them was Bianca, stunning as always with her new husband, a philanthropist she'd met through her charity work. When Amara reached Rowan, He took her hands in his eyes never leaving hers. "You are breathtaking," he whispered. The tea. Ceremony was simple but heartfelt. When it came time for their vows, Rowan spoke first. "Amara, before I met you, I had lost my way. I had wealth and success, but no real happiness. No purpose beyond the next deal, the next product launch." His voice was steady but filled with emotion. "You showed me what really matters. Your kindness, your integrity, your ability to see the good in everyone. These things changed me. Changed my life." He squeezed her hands gently. "I promise to spend every day trying to be the man you believe I am. To see you, really see you, every day of our lives together. To never take for granted the miracle of finding you." Tears filled Amara's eyes as she began her own vows. "Rowan, when we first met, I had no idea who you really were. And then, when I found out, I was hurt and confused." She smiled through her tears. "But I realized something important. Even in disguise, you showed me your true self, your kindness, your thoughtfulness, your desire to make things right." She took a deep breath. "I promise to always see that man, the real you, beneath whatever role or title the world gives you. To stand beside you, to believe in you, and to remind you of who you are whenever you forget. And most of all, I promise to love you, not for what you have, but for who you are." As they exchanged rings, a sense of rightness settled over Amara. This was meant to be. Not because it was a fairy tale of a receptionist marrying her billionaire boss, but because they had found in each other the rare gift of being truly seen and accepted. "By the power vested in me," the officiant said, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Rowan's lips met hers in a kiss that felt like a promise, a beginning, a forever. The guests erupted in applause as they turned to face their friends and family as Mr. and Mrs. Kessler. At the reception, held in a beautifully decorated tent on the estate grounds, Rowan and Amara moved from table to table, greeting their guests. The gathering was an unlikely mix: corporate, executives and maintenance staff, Amara's childhood friends and Rowan's business associates, all celebrating together. "Quite the melting pot you've created," James commented as he joined them near the cake table. "Not many weddings where the janitor sits at the same table as the CFO." Rowan laughed. "That's Amara's influence. She doesn't see titles, just people." "It's good for you," James said, his expression becoming more serious. "All of this, she's good for you." He glanced at Amara. "You know, I've known this guy for 15 years, and I've never seen him this happy. The feeling is mutual," Amara replied, squeezing Rowan's hand. As James moved away to join Bianca on the dance floor, Rowan pulled Amara into a quiet corner of the tent. "Happy?" he asked, his arms encircling her waist. "More than I ever thought possible," she assured him. "There's something I've been wanting to tell you," Rowan said, his expression a mix of excitement and nervousness. "I was going to wait until after the honeymoon, but I can't hold it in anymore." Amara tilted her head. "What is it?" "You know that community center where you volunteer, the one that's been struggling for funding?" "Yes," Amara said cautiously. They'd discussed making a donation, but Rowan's expression suggested something bigger. "I bought the building," he announced, "and the 2 adjacent properties. We're going to expand it, create a proper community hub with after-school programs, job training, elder care, everything the neighborhood needs." Amara stared at him in shock. "Rowan, that must have cost millions," he shrugged. "Money well spent. But here's the best part. I want you to run it." "Me?" Amara's eyes widened. "But my position at Everson will be there if you want it," Rowan assured her. "But I've seen how passionate you are about that community, how much you care about Mrs. Peterson and the others who live there. This would be your project, your vision, a chance to make an even bigger difference." Amara was speechless. The scope of the gift, not just the buildings or the money, but the understanding of what truly mattered to her, was overwhelming. "You don't have to decide now," Rowan added quickly. "Take your time. Think about—" "Yes," Amara interrupted. "Yes, I want to do it." Rowan's face lit up. "Really? Really?" She wrapped her arms around his neck. "You know me so well, don't you? You always see what I need even before I do." "I pay attention," he said simply. "The way you taught me to, As they rejoined the celebration, Amara felt a sense of purpose and belonging that went beyond the fairy tale wedding, beyond the unlikely love story. Together, they had built something real, a partnership based on mutual respect and understanding, on seeing each other's true selves and loving what they saw. Later, as they swayed together for their first dance as husband and wife, Rowan whispered in her ear, "I have a confession to make." "Another one?" Amara teased. "Should I be worried?" "No," he laughed softly. "It's just that first day when I spilled the coffee and you helped me clean it up. I spilled it on purpose." Amara pulled back to look at him. "You did?" Rowan nodded, a little sheepish. "I wanted an excuse to talk to you. You'd smiled at me when I walked in, and it was the first genuine smile anyone had given me in months. I needed to know if you were real." "So our entire relationship is based on a staged coffee spill?" Amara asked, pretending to be scandalized. "And a shared cookie," Rowan reminded her. "Don't forget the cookie, that was all you." Amara laughed, shaking her head in amazement. "We have the strangest love story." "The best love story," Rowan corrected, drawing her close again as they continued to dance. The man with the mop and the woman who saw him anyway. 2 years later, the Everson Community Center was alive with activity. Children laughed in the playground area, teenagers huddled over computers in the tech lab, and seniors gathered for their weekly art class in the sunny East Wing. In the center's main office, Amara sat at her desk, reviewing the budget for the upcoming quarter. The past 2 years had been a whirlwind of activity as she'd transformed Rowan's gift into a thriving hub for the neighborhood. The center now served over 500 people weekly, offering everything from meals for the elderly to job training for young adults. A knock at her door made her look up. Rowan stood there, his tie loosened after a day at Everson, a smile on his face and a small wrapped package in his hand. "How's my favorite community organizer?" he asked, leaning down to kiss her cheek. "Busy but happy," Amara replied, returning his smile. "How's my favorite CEO?" "The same." He placed the package on her desk. "I brought you something." Amara raised an eyebrow. "It's not our anniversary." "Does a husband need a special occasion to give his wife a gift?" Rowan asked innocently. With a suspicious look, Amara unwrapped the package to find a small silver frame. Inside was a photograph she'd never seen before, a somewhat blurry image of her behind the reception desk at Everson, smiling as she handed a coffee to someone off camera. "What's this?" she asked, puzzled. "The first time I saw you," Rowan explained. "My first day back after the sabbatical. I was watching from across the lobby, trying to get a feel for how the company was running. You were the only person who looked happy to be there." Amara studied the photo, touched by the sentiment. "Where did you get this?" "Security footage," Rowan admitted. "I may have bribed Ben to find it for me." "You're incorrigible," Amara laughed, but her eyes were soft as she set the frame on her desk. "I have news," Rowan said, settling into the chair across from her. "The board approved the employee ownership plan today. Starting next month, every Everson employee will receive shares in the company." Amara's face lit up. "That's wonderful. It's what we've been working toward for over a year." "It wouldn't have happened without you," Rowan said. "Your pilot program here at the center proved that shared ownership increases engagement and innovation. The center had indeed become a testing ground for many of the progressive workplace policies that Everson was now implementing." Amara's dual role as community leader and corporate consultant had allowed her to bridge worlds that rarely intersected. "I have news too," she said, a hint of nervousness in her voice. "I was going to tell you tonight at dinner, but since you're here..." Rowan leaned forward, his expression curious. "What is it?" Amara took a deep breath. "We're going to need to convert the storage room into a nursery, for the staff, of course, but also..." She placed a hand over her still flat stomach. "For our baby in about 7 months." Rowan's face transformed with joy and wonder. "A baby? We're having a baby?" Amara nodded, her eyes filling with happy tears. "We are." In an instant, Rowan was around the desk, pulling her to her feet and into his arms. "A baby," he repeated, his voice thick with emotion. "Our baby." As he held her close, his hand gently covering hers over their unborn child, Amara thought about the unlikely path that had brought them here. From a spilled coffee to a shared life, from deception to the deepest truth they'd ever known. "What are you thinking about?" Rowan asked, noticing her thoughtful expression. "About how sometimes the most unexpected beginnings lead to the most beautiful journeys," Amara replied, "and about how glad I am that I offered half my cookie to the new janitor." Rowan laughed, the sound full of joy and wonder. "Our child is going to have the best stories about how their parents met." "The man with the mop," Amara said, smiling up at him. "And the woman who saw him anyway," Rowan finished, lowering his lips to hers in a kiss that held the promise of all the stories yet to come. Outside the office window, the sun was setting over the community center that bore both their names, not as a monument to wealth or status, but as a testament to what happens when people truly see each other, value each other, love each other for who they really are, and that, after all, was the greatest gift they could give to each other, to their community, and to the child who would soon join their extraordinary, ordinary love story. The end.